Welcome to the 10th round of the FIDE Grand Swiss women's section. We have former world champion Mariya Muzychuk with the black pieces taking on the Indian youngster R.Vaishali. Vaishali, who has been playing brilliantly at the FIDE Grand Swiss, lost her 8th round game to Bibisara Asaubayeva and then drew her game against Yuxin Song, and now she's half a point behind Katerina Lagno. Mariya Muzychuk, who started off a bit topsy-turvy with losses to Ulvia Fatalieva and Katerina Lagno, is now slowly making a comeback into this tournament with 3 wins in a row. And this one game is super important because whoever wins this will most likely get great chances of making it to the candidates, also moving into the lead. Vaishali has the white pieces, a handshake, and off we go. Vaishali takes her time for the first move and opens with pawn to e4. And Mariya plays the Sicilian. She goes e4, c5. Knight comes out to f3. And knight to c6. Bringing the knight into the center. Pawn to d4 played. C takes d4. Knight takes d4. And knight f6. Knight comes out to c3, defending the pawn, and e5 played. Knight to b5, and we have the Sveshnikov d6. And white jumps in with the knight with the idea of giving a check on c7. Knight takes d5. E takes d5, and this line has started to become very popular, and Muzychuk plays her knight back to b8. Vaishali goes for this new idea, rook g1, and Mariya is well prepared. She quickly plays her bishop to e7. Pawn comes up to g4, and you have knight to d7 played. Bishop enters on e3, eyeing the a7 pawn, and Mariya pushes her pawn to a6. The knight has to move back, and Vaishali comes back to c3, and the bishop comes to g5, offering a trade of bishops. Bishop takes on g5. Black goes queen takes g5. And now queen d2. Ooh, she offers the trade of queens. It's very interesting play by Vaishali. She could have gone knight e4, kicking the queen away, but now the queens are traded. And pawn to b5 pushed. The pawn is coming up ahead. a4 by Vaishali. And now b4 very likely to be played here by Mariya. White knight can jump to e4, attacking the d6 pawn. She does. And king e7. And now a very important move, pawn to a5, found by Vaishali, fixing the a6 weakness. Black goes knight to c5. I like the confidence with which Mariya Muzychuk is playing here. Vaishali goes pawn to f3. She's happy if Black takes, she can bolster her pawn in the center. And now bishop goes to d7 to bring the bishop here to b5, rook c8. And now Vaishali finally takes on c5, pawn takes, and Black's king can simply come up here, bishop c4. And somehow it starts to feel like Black's position is more harmonious. King d6. You have this move g5 with the idea of h5, rook a e1, and pawn to g5. h5 is possible here. Pawn to h4 played, and takes. So Vaishali, instead of sitting quietly, she goes for the attack. F4. This is just the way she plays chess. She's always super aggressive. F6 played. E takes F4 was also possible here. It was not a bad idea. F6 and G5 played in the position here by Vaishali. And Mariya, there's someone in the middle blocking the view. Not sure how many moves are played. EF4, GF6, Rook F8, and now the Rook jumps into E7. Mariya takes the pawn on F6. And Vaishali takes the pawn on H7. Black's position already looks preferable. You can push the pawn to H3. The bishop defends here. Can we enter on G7? No, she goes King E2. And bishop to F5, attacking the C2 pawn as well as the rook. Rook H4 played. And now Rook A7 with the idea of getting the rook in here, or maybe taking on C2. She takes directly, which is also fine. Because now Vaishali can take the H3 pawn, but still black is for choice. Bishop comes to E4. Maybe better was bishop A4 to B5, trading off this important bishop. But now she's attacking this pawn, King F2, and you can't take it perhaps because of Rook D1. So that's the reason why she goes King E5. And Vaishali goes pawn to B3. The game is heating up. Rook D8 played, and this pawn is defended on A6. Vaishali brings the rook to E1, pinning here. Now Mariya has to be careful. She pushes pawn to F3 and ready to meet Rook H4 with Rook F4, I believe. Check. You have to go Rook F5. It's the only way. And now Rook H6, attacking the pawn here. Vaishali has 42 seconds. Mariya has 1 minute. We are on move 36. King comes to D4. A mistake. Rook H4 should end the game here. Very powerful move. Because Rook H4, if Rook E5 here, you go Rook E3 with the idea of mate. So it's a beautiful line, by the way. Rook H4 and it's over. But Vaishali goes D6. She misses it. And now Rook F4 to block any side attacks. Or Bishop C2, just move the bishop away. Goes Rook to G5 with the idea of a check here. And Rook H4 is a powerful move here. Yes, she finds it. And now the problem is that Rook E5 played, and this is a super important move. Rook E3 with the idea of Rook D3 mate. And Vaishali finds it. So if you take Rook takes D6 here, RD3 is a beautiful checkmate. So goes Rook E8, making a square for the king to go back. D7, a beautiful move. If you take here, check and you lose the rook. So Rook E7, but now it's time for tactics. Fireworks. As Vaishali, as we call it in Vaishali land. She's super good at it. Rook D3, check. What a move. Now King E5. And you sack your rook on E4. Takes, Rook E3 winning. The rook on E7 and takes it. Vaishali is winning. Mariya Muzychuk has blundered in time trouble. 40 moves have been done. She'll get 50 extra minutes, but 30 extra minutes, but it's pointless here. She resigns. Vaishali scores a very important win in a game that could have gone in any direction. Insane. And with this, Vaishali joins the leaders at the top of the table. She moves on to 7.5 out of 10 and has excellent chances of defending her title and moving to the FIDE Candidates 2026. A brilliant win there over a former world champion. Well done, Vaishali. You kept your cool under time pressure and going back home with the full point.
Not too fast.
Thank you. Good luck.
Excuse me. Ольга. Себе. Можно? Давай, dur. Orta getir. Qara. Şey, gel. He starts coming. Bueno.
Thank you, Mr.
I think. Can I get in?